How far back does the acquaintanceship, the
Well, we
relationship
first met
go?
when we entered the Rotary Club Manila at the same time in 1983.
Oh.
He was then the chief of the Philippine Constabulary, which, as you know, he was the forerunner of the Philippine National Police.
Yes.
He was a gentleman already of the highest caliber. Although he was a high government official, he mixed very freely with the Rotarians, joked very freely, and once in a while, in the Rotary tradition, he would be fined. Fined in the sense not being punished, but to raise funds for the Rotary Club Manila. The Rotarians would be asked questions. And the funnier you respond, the better. And he played that game. Once in a while, we would talk. He knew me as a practicing lawyer at that time. Once in a while, we would talk in the table and we'd joke each other. And that's how we began our acquaintance and friendship.
So batchmates.
Batchmates in Manila Rotary.
Yeah, ito yung sa Manila Hotel, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken. Yeah,
We used to meet in Manila Hotel. And at that time, the Rotary Club Manila was the organization.
Exactly.
When, at the time, President Marcos wanted to speak to the nation, he would speak before the Rotary Club Manila. And of course, it was covered by television.
Thursdays, if I
Thursday,
remember right.
I remember.
Yeah, I used to cover it. Well,
Yes.
not during the Marcos years, but
Yes.
certainly during the Cory and Ramos
Yes.
years. No?
Even during Ramos' time, the Rotary Club Manila was still the premier organization in the Philippines. Although now, regrettably, it's no longer that.
Not us. Yeah.
Not as premier as during that time.
At that time.
And I became president of the Rotary Club Manila.
Exactly.
Yes.
I was going to get to that. He probably when you became his superior.
He's not superior in any sense. But he observed me at that time. And he would praise me or sometimes suggest, do this, do that. And I would appreciate it. It was something like that. Of course, I looked up to him. I was just a little, small practicing lawyer. And he was already somehow at the top of his career as a police official.
Chief, but that time, if you remember, was a time of ferment. No?
Yes.
The political tensions brought about by the assassination of Ninoy.
Yes.
Did you get rid of his own sense of the times of the
Yes, I think he was reading this. He was reading the, as you said, the times quite well. Although he did not speak as openly as it would be for a private person like me. He was, after all, serving President Marcos. And he was related to President Marcos. But in private conversation, he would allow dissent. In fact, sometimes he would, I think, consciously listen to dissenting voices. In the Rotary Club Manila, we freely spoke with one another, although in the rostrum we were more formal. But in the round tables, we were more freely talking. And I got the sense that he wanted a multiplicity of voices. And he listened to pros and cons.
He appreciated that?
He appreciated diversity of opinions.
Strangely enough, this was one of the chief implementers of martial law.
Yes. At that time, of course, as chief of the Philippine National Police, or the Philippine Constabulary, as it was called, at that time, he had the responsibility for peace and order. And peace and order meant that you've got to arrest, people who are viewed as dissidents. And he, in my estimation at that time, while he did his duty, he had already ideas that maybe we should not abuse power. And he did not abuse his own power. As a matter of fact, he was very friendly. And to my knowledge, even the people in the Rotary Club who did not agree with President Marcos, he was talking. He was not barred by his office from talking intimately with them. He was tolerant, in other words.
Yeah, yeah.
Progressive, democratic, among friends.
But you were a member of the legal profession.
Yes.
But at the same time, you were also very much into business.
Yes,
at
I
the
had
time.
business. We were in Baron Travel. We founded the Baron Travel Corporation. My family owned it. And I had other businesses, real estate. In fact, I was a director of a bank even at that time.
Yes, yes.
I was a member of the Legal Management Association of the Philippines, as well as the Management Association of the Philippines.
Yeah.
So I had a rather broad view of civil society.
Tell me, what was the perception of the organizations you were involved in of FVR, one of the highest ranking?
Yeah, they were
Militar.
respectful of him because he was not arrogant. He did not abuse his authority. As a matter of fact, I think he was kind in the sense that he understood why people were dissenting. Although, of course, in an official level, he had to do his duty.
Right, right.
But I think by the way he conducted himself, he was fair. Yeah.
And I guess professional about it.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But the more intimate part of our association was when he was elected president. I remember the dates very well. I was on my way to City Hall of Manila it was a Friday, I think it was June 16, 1992.
Shortly before.
No, after his election already. Election was in May.
Yeah,
And at
shortly
that time,
before.
at that time, his victory was already assured. Of course, he took his oath as president June 30.
Right.
But this was June 16, and he called me on the phone. At that time, the cell phones were not small. They were huge pieces,
Yeah.
and I had one in my car.
Oh.
It rang. I said, hello, is this Attorney Panganiban? Yes, this is Attorney Panganiban. Who's this? I said, this is Eddie, he replied. So I was puzzled. How would anyone know my telephone number in the car? No? I said, Eddie who? He said, Eddie Ramos. I was shocked. I said, oh, Mr. President, what can I do for you? He said, Art, magkita tayo bukas ng umaga, alas 7 ha. Sabado yun. Sa room 202 at number 845, Pasay Road. That was his private headquarters, it turned out. But anyway, so the following morning, at 7 o'clock in the morning, came to office early. He was there already. And when I arrived a little before 7, I knocked at the door, and Joe Almonte opened the door. My first time to meet Joe Almonte. No? He ushered me to the conference room. It was a large conference room with a long table. And then he came maybe in a minute or so after I was ushered in. So I shook my hand. He said, oh, Art, kumusta ka? So we exchanged views. He asked me what I thought the people's expectation were of their new president, what my philosophy of law is. And then finally, after about an hour of chit-chat, he said, no, I asked you to come over because I wanted you to join my cabinet.
Wow.
I invite you as Secretary of Justice, he said. I was taken aback. I said, Mr. President, thank you for the invitation, but I do not deserve that post. Why? He said. First, I said, I did not campaign for you.
Yeah.
And second, I said, I was connected at that time with the PPCRB, the Paris Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting. I was the National Vice Chairman and Chief Legal Counsel. I said, you know, I belong to a non-partisan organization, and people may say, oh, after all, PPCRB was partisan. Why is their vice chairman joining the cabinet? Well, he said, first, about your not campaigning for me. I know you did not campaign for me.
Yeah.
You even did not vote for me, he said.
Yeah.
You voted for Joby. Joby Salonga.
You were Liberal Party counsel.
Yes, I was for a time counsel of the Liberal Party when Salonga was president of the Liberal Party.
Right.
But I resigned also from the Liberal Party when I joined the PPCRB.
Okay.
And he said, but I want you to join us because anyway, I know you and Rotary were good friends. I know what you can do. Please help me, he said. I don't want to be president only of those who voted for me. I want to be president of all the people of the Philippines.
That says something about the man, no?
It says something great about him, and I was really impressed. He said, now that I will be president, I would like to be president of all the people, even those who did not vote for me. He said, that's the way to reconciliation, to peace, he said. That's the way to get our country going. And your joining me will send a strong message as to whether you are on the other side or not does not matter. I know you're capable, he said. Now, he said about PPCRB, please ask their permission. Yes, yes, Mr. President, I said, I will. Okay, so he even talked with Salonga afterwards. I did.
Yeah.
So he said, let's talk about a week or so from now.
Okay.
But in the meantime, he said, I will write you already in my little note. He kept a small piece of paper where he wrote the names of his prospective cabinet members. Put it aside. Okay, he said, 1 week or 10 days, I'll call you and let's talk again. So in the meantime, I spoke with Salonga.
Yeah.
And he said, well, he said, that's great of him to invite you, knowing that you were my student, I was your mentor, because I told, President Ramos that I owe Salonga what I know in law. He was my dean in school. He was my first employer. And later on, imagine, I said, he got me as his own lawyer and the lawyer of the Liberal Party. I said, that's the greatest honor that I got, being mentor of my own mentor, being lawyer of my own professor.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was sure, he said, how nice of President Ramos to do that. And then I told my wife about it. My wife didn't like it. He said, no politics for us. I don't want politics. You can be anything, but not a politician. By being Secretary of Justice, you will have to be in politics. Maybe you will even run for public office later.
Right.
So he did not support it.
Yeah, it was a very successful law and business practice, Chief.
Yes. So he says, so after that, President called me again, and so I told him that Salonga was very happy that you invited me. Oh, he said, Joby and I are good friends. We belong to the same cosmopolitan church.
Yes.
It's too bad that we had to oppose each other, but we were gentlemen on both sides. He says, yes, I know. I said, he has great respect for you. Oh, I know. I respect him also, he said. It's just too bad we were on opposite political camps, but we're still together as friends and firm believer in Jesus Christ. I said, in PPCRB, I had to get their permission also.
Yeah.
And the board of directors was divided.
Oh.
It was divided. Some were saying, oh, it's the opportunity given to us by the new president. Let's join. Some of the trustees of the PPCRB were bishops. One of them was the president of the CBCP, the Catholic Bishops Conference of the Philippines, Monsignor or Archbishop Legazpi.
Oh, okay.
He said
He was against it.
he was against it. He was saying, "You'll be looked at as not partisan, not impartial. After all, we were partisan. We'll be attacked. And then besides, he said, he's a Protestant, we're Catholics.
Yeah,
He's very conservative.
There was still a divide
yes.
actually at that time. No?
And then, but the other bishops, si Bishop Bacani was saying, well, this is an opportunity for us. He's inviting us to, through you, he told me, to reconcile with him and help him govern. That's very nice of him. So they were divided. But the final kicker was my wife. My wife didn't want it. Didn't agree.
That
So
was the
I-
deciding vote. Ano?
So I told the president, I'm sorry, Mr. President, my wife does not agree. Sabi niya, oh, dalawa na pala tayong under desire. So of course he was kidding. Sabi niya, sige, let's respect your wife's wishes. Sabi niya, pero you should join public service. Sabi niya, sa Supreme Court ka na lang. Sabi niya sa akin. Ang ganon.
That early?
That early, he told me.
Sir, that was June 1992.
Yes.
Way before he was sworn in.
Yes. He was sworn
2
in.
weeks before.
Yeah,
no,
2
he
weeks
was
before.
sworn in.
And he even told me, there will be 2 vacancies immediately, he said. The first was last May, and it was not filled yet by Cory. Sabi ko, Mr. President, that's non-political job. Sabi ko, that will be interesting. Very nice. Thank you very much. But Mr. President, I said, you cannot just appoint me. I need to be nominated and voted by the Judicial and Bar Council.
Yeah.
He thought for a moment and said, don't worry, I'll take care of that. So I was happy, of course, and he was happy. He was able to recruit me, to convince me to join government anyway. He said, we need people like you to join the government. Sabi ko, that's very honorable of you, Mr. President.
So accepted na ni-reject mo yung
Yes.
Department of Justice.
Yes.
But he still had
Yeah,
you.
he offered me. Sabi niya, you should join government. Sabi niya, we need you there.
Oo.
Supreme Court ka na lang, sabi niya. Sabi ko, Mr. President, with due respect, huwag niyong inilalang, okay yan.
So,
And then, tinawagan pa niya si Drilon, si Franklin Drilon.
because
Sabi niya, you know, Frank, I was reserving to be Secretary of Interior and Local Government. Binuksan pa niya yung maliit niyang papel, no? Ito, nandito siya. Sabi niya, nandito ka. Sabi niya. Ito si Executive Secretary, si Juan.
Amante.
Si Peter.
Peter Garucho.
Peter
Yes,
Garucho,
yes.
sabi niya, no? Dito ka sana Secretary of Justice. Pero sabi sa akin ni Frank, sabi niya, mas gusto niya Secretary of Justice. Pero sinabi ko sa kanya, I offered it already to you. So I'll call him now. Sabi niya, tawagin niya. Frank, nandito si Art. Sabi niya. Sabi niya sa akin, hindi raw niya kukunin yung Secretary of Justice. Kaya sa'yo na yun. Sabi niya, no? Tuwa si Frank. Sabi niya, pasalamatan mo si Art. Matras eh. Ganun siya. Di ba? He was very gracious
And yet
about
he was pretty much purposive in his direction. Ano?
Oh, yes.
I mean,
He was firm about what he wanted to do.
Well, for you, he had a plan A and apparently he had a plan B.
Well, the plan B just came out because I think he was expecting me to accept. So he was a little disappointed when I said, kaya biro pa nga siya eh. Pareho na pala tayong, sabi ko, under desire ko. Tapos, yeah. Pagkatapos, sinabi kong, but you cannot just appoint me, Mr. President. I need to be nominated by the Judicial and Bar Council. And he took it upon himself. Don't worry, I'll take care of that. Yeah. So, at that time, the Presidential Legal Counsel he appointed was Tony Carpio. And so, I visited Tony Carpio in Malacanang, and he told me, that was my first time to meet Tony Carpio. He said, the President instructed me to see you through in the JBC. So, you know, he followed it through. And in fact, he did something I didn't expect him to do. He talked with Chief Justice Narbasa.
Oh.
Narbasa was then the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And the Chief Justice is the chairman of the Judicial and Bar Council.
Yeah.
And he visited in his house to ask for my nominations at JBC. And si Raul Goco and Pepe Melo. Pepe Melo was to get the first vacancy.
Yes.
Mine was supposed to be the second.
Justice Paras.
Oh, the retirement of Justice Paras. Well, Narvasa, who was our family friend, was a little disappointed, although he did not tell Ramos that.
Why so?
Because in his view, the president should not be lobbying for appointments in the Supreme Court because dapat daw independent ang JBC. Unlike now, the JBC, unfortunately, is not of that mind. No? But while he could not say no to President Ramos, he resented it and he delayed my getting into the Supreme Court. So I could not get into that vacancy of Justice Paras. He delayed it simply to show that he was not pleased. But I'm relating this story because it shows that the president really follows up.
Yeah.
He followed up. When he told me, I'll take care of it, he did. Told Tony Carpio, his presidential legal counsel, you see through the appointment of, or the nomination of Attorney Art Panganiban.
Yeah.
And also si Frank Drilon, because the Secretary of Justice is a member
also-
of the
yeah.
JBC.
Right.
But even with that, they could not force it through because Narbasa was very strong about it. He said, no, we will not do that. Not now. So anyway, to cut the long story short, I still got to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but a few years.
Yeah, I had to
bit
wait a
later.
little while. No? But to the credit again of the president, while he offered me this without any sponsor, without any political backing of any sort. In fact, in the form that he has, because everyone in his, to be appointed, has a form that is filled up. There is a blank there, is recommended by. Blanco yung recommendation. Wala akong nagre-recommend. Dahil siya mismo
Yes.
He himself offered me to be in the Supreme Court. I didn't expect it because my favorite professor, my mentor, lost the election. So,
Was his opponent in the...
yes, his opponent who won. And even before he took office, imagine he was offering me.
Yeah.
To the credit of the president, he never spoke to me after I was appointed to the Supreme Court. I stayed there for more than 11 years. He didn't call me, he didn't speak with me, he didn't send any messages to me as to what he wanted. And even when the government, his administration, was facing critical cases in the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
he never even hinted to me what he wanted and what he did not want. He respected my independence.
Chief, do you remember who you replaced?
Camilo Quezon.
Oh, yeah.
Camilo Quezon.
Camilo Quezon.
Yes.
Oh, in 95.
Yes.
And then-
As soon as I was nominated by the Supreme Court, he appointed me immediately. True to his promise, I did not follow it up. In other words, he offered it to me, knowing that I did not campaign for him. I did not even vote for him. That's from his word. Oh, you did not even vote for me, he said. But that's no matter, he said.
Oh, but he did have a knack for that. You know, if you recall, I mean, people from so many different fields,
Yes.
all of them, you know, respected and very well recognized as experts in their field. His cabinet alone. I
Yes.
mean, no celebrities, no one really very popular, but all of them.
Yes. Capable,
Diba?
competent,
And
honest,
very well
yes.
respected in
respected in the
their field.
community.
Yeah.
He selected them himself, yes, without much recommendation, without looking at their political backgrounds. He simply wanted, in his words, to be president of all the people.
But to his credit as well, he had a knack for finding talent.
Yes. I think he has that knack. He had and still has that knack of finding people, put them in the right places.
In the interim, Chief, between the the forceful persuasion of then Chief Narvasa and your eventual nomination and appointment in '95, were there other assignments that he would?
Yes, he would
or he would-
consult me once in a while because I would go to Malacanang, as I said. Tony Carpio and I became friends, and I would loiter in his office, and so with Joe Almonte. Joe Almonte was the ideologue, ideologue, and we were discussing Ramos' vision for 2020. If you remember, that was his motto, 2020. Yeah, the vision of what the country would be 2020 and henceforth.
Yeah.
Too bad that he was term limited, you know.
Oo nga.
There was an attempt to get him through
Oh yeah, tell me about that.
another term.
You were in the court then?
Yes, I was in the court. It was a big battle in the court.
This was Pirma
Yes.
and the People's
Yes.
Initiative.
People's initiative to amend the Constitution. And he did not lift a finger himself personally. I don't think he talked with anybody in the court, although he had many appointees already. You know? The one who wrote the decision there was Davide. He was then not yet Chief Justice. He was, I think Narvasa was still Chief Justice. And Davide wrote a decision nullifying the attempt by saying that there was no enabling law. There was no law that would enable a people's initiative to become a reality. I was one of the dissenters. In other words, I was in favor of the initiative because I said there was a law sponsored by Raul Rocco. But the Vita said it's insufficient. It was a big battle. The court was split. But eventually, the court, by majority vote, turned it down. I wrote a strong dissent and saying that, what are you saying that there is no enabling law? There is an enabling law. So there's no such thing as insufficient law because there's a principle in the civil code that judges cannot refuse to make a decision on the basis that a law is vague or insufficient. So that was violated, I said, by the court. That was a big battle. I thought that it was for the interest of the country that he should have been allowed to continue. Because, let's face it, he was the best president of this country. He had a plan, he had a vision, and he had the foresight and the drive, the energy to see it through.
Yeah, people said that 6 years was too short for a good man and maybe too long for a not too good fellow. So,
in his case, he really had the vision. And he worked very hard. As you know, he would wake up early in the morning until late in the evening.
Oh, you heard
working.
of those two?
Oh, yes. Because before I was appointed, there was a gap where I could observe him, he would consult me. And he was ready all the time. He was on radio, being interviewed at radio at 5 o'clock in the morning. It seems he didn't sleep. And late at night, he was working.
Were you part of that group? There was an advisory consultative group, the Wednesday.
Yes, the Wednesday group with Joe Almonte. I was part of that group. Joe Almonte recruited me.
Oh, okay.
After that initial meeting we had, when the president invited me at his private office at Pasay Road, he met me there, and he was listening to our conversation. Although he was not participating, the president and I were talking, just the two of us, one-on-one. But Almonte was within hearing distance. And I think he liked my ideas. Because, as I was saying, liberty and prosperity, which is my legal philosophy, is similar to peace and development. Justice and jobs, food and freedom, liberty and prosperity, peace and development. They're all similar. They all revolve around the same philosophy.
Yeah, the commonality there, Chief.
Yes.
And I guess that's what eventually served or to
to
strengthen the bond, ano?
Yeah, the bond.
Initially classmates at Rotary.
Yes. And also with Joe Almonte. As I said, he was the ideologue of the Ramos presidency. He was the one who knitted together the ideas of the president. There was his ideas, of course. They're the ideas of the president, but he needed someone behind to be able to cluster them together in one whole. And he was the one who was doing that behind the scenes.
To sew it all up, ano?
Many other
put it-
people
yeah.
within that Wednesday group. We met every Wednesday evening. Yeah.
Evening ba or ano? O kasi may press con.
Evening. We met in the evenings, but
Yeah.
they held meetings publicly
Yeah.
during the days.
Yes, yes.
But I was not with them during the day. We were just in the evening together every Wednesday. So we called ourselves the Wednesday group, and Joe Almonte was the head of that.
Yeah. Chief, tell me about those meetings. I mean, how those meetings allowed you to see into the mind of the president.
Well, yes. When first, to begin with, when we were talking in his private room on that June 17, 1992, he asked me what I thought the role of law is in governance. I said, law is just a brick in the building of society. It's not the edifice itself. The edifice is society, and law must be used in building that edifice. And therefore, it should not be interpreted literally all the time. It should be interpreted liberally so that that structure can be built. Therefore, law is intended to help build society. It's not that you must read the law literally even if it destroys society. The vision of the leaders of society, particularly the president, should be assisted by law. And he liked that. A larger sociological vision of what society should be. So, peace and development can eventually reign. So we supported, of course, his attempt at peace. You know that he was able to strike a deal with the MNLF, with Miss Miswari.
The RAM.
Yeah, with the RAM. He got the Nobel Peace Prize for that, di ba? For that effort. He wanted peace because imagine a man of war, as a soldier, as a policeman, wanting peace. Something to be admired.
And rare.
Yeah, rare. Soldier wants war.
That's what
Policeman
they
wants
train for.
aggression, is trained for. Di ba? If there's no war, the soldiers would become irrelevant. But he wanted peace. He wanted peace. That's why his motto is peace and development. In order to develop the country, there must be peace. It's true. In all the areas where there is aggression, in Mindanao especially, even at that time in central Luzon, where there was the Communist Party, even now
the
there
NPA,
is, although the NPA has evolved outside Luzon already. It's already in Visayas and Mindanao. But at that time, the NPA was concentrated in Luzon. Yes. He wanted peace. The president wanted peace.
He did start discussions with them, but it didn't quite push through as with the two other
Yes.
threat groups.
The RAM, he was able to get back. The RAM, which fought his predecessor, President Cory, he was able to win back.
And which he 7 attempts.
Yeah.
7 or 9, depending on who it is you're speaking with. And he got Unasan to run.
Yes.
For Chief, let me ask you a few things about during. It was a full plate he had when he was coming in, and he wanted to liberalize, he wanted to
Oh, yes.
globalize.
Yes.
But the legislative mill was not as fast as he had wanted
Yes.
it to do, to get through the legislation he wanted.
Yes.
We were reporting at the time,
Yes.
early part actually of his administration, that he would take the shortcuts,
Yes.
administrative orders, executive
Yes.
orders, memo circulars, if you still remember.
Yes.
But your sense, I mean, he used it to bridge the gap,
Yes.
but that was a very thin line.
Yes. You're right that he was very progressive. His vision is much farther away from the ordinary politicians, the legislators, even with some cabinet members. At that time, the reigning mantra was ultra-nationalism, love of country. There was no such thing at that time as globalization, privatization, deregulation. At that time, it was NEPA, National Economic Protectionism Association, Filipino first. But President grasped that it cannot be ultra-nationalism. You have to look at the world. And so he looked at the globalization trend in the world. He looked at the World Trade Organization. So he espoused patriotism instead of extreme nationalism. At that time, as I said, it was taboo to say that you want to globalize, you want to privatize. At that time, most of the services in the Philippines were done by the government. You have the National Power Corporation providing electric power. You had the NAWASA, National Water Works Authority, providing water. You had the government telephone company there. No?
Yeah.
They're all providing the services. And he wanted to privatize. At the same time, he didn't want monopolies.
Yeah.
He tried to break the monopoly of PLDT,
Yeah.
broke the monopoly of the insurance companies, which are all progressive and which all bore now the indicias of progress in the Philippines. So we have no monopolies, we have healthy competition, we have the government out of business, and you have, because of that, more efficient public services. Now you have Vanilla Water and Maynilad. Before, when water was dispensed by NAWASA, you had no water.
Yeah.
Imagine paying for no water.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People complain now, it's a little expensive. Well, I say, at least I have water in my second floor without having to have pumps. At that time, I had to have pumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lived in this house since 1979.
Okay.
And I know I had to have pumps here, not only to bring up the water, but to clean it also, to filter it.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't have to filter the water, and you open the faucet upstairs, water oozes out.
He was
At
way
that time,
ahead,
we had always brownouts, though. But he privatized electric generation. Yeah.
We needed an engineer, and
Yes.
we got an engineer.
Yes.
But he was
He
also
built the nation.
But he was also several decades ahead of.
Yes. He's ahead of the time. And at that time, he was criticized. But he forged on. And looking back, we know that he did the right thing. He got government out of business. And so business flourished. And when business flourished, employment was available, as well as services were available. There was production. So the Philippines progressed.
He was
And it's Philippines 2000.
2000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Philippines 2000, not 2020. I was saying 2020. Should be Philippines 2000. That was his motto.
He was fairly impervious to to criticism,
Yeah.
although he did listen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but
He did. He listened.
But he was pretty much
Yeah, he had a vision and a plan that he pursued. He did not ignore critics, though. I remember very well, I was counsel of the Philippine Daily Inquirer for a time. In fact, I was president for a while because in the battle for control of the Philippine Daily Inquirer, at the time, one group was held by Ege Apostol.
Yes.
Another group by Mark Kimson. I was counsel of the Mark Kimson group,
Oh, okay.
who were later on joined by Mrs. Prieto.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Prieto eventually gained control of the
Assumed, yes.
Inquirer. And the Inquirer was very critical of him. And he would complain to me, sabi niya, sabi mo naman dyan sa Inquirer to be fair, to listen to us also. So I would ask him and Mrs. Prieto to talk privately in this
Yeah.
house. They would talk.
Oh,
He would explain.
talaga? Dito, sir?
Yes. And in fact, when my daughter got married, I got them both as ninongs, the president and Marixie. Sabi ko, para ma-solve na yan. Kaibigan na kayo.
Oh.
He said, all I want is a fair hearing. That you hear me first before you criticize me. Never mind, you criticize me, but put my side also, which is fair.
Yep.
Fair. You don't have to stop criticizing me, but please put my side there also.
Yeah. And he would do that actually
He would do
during
that, and he did patiently. Patiently, he did that. Explained himself
Yeah.
very well. Yes. Eventually, he and Marixie became friends.
Yeah, actually. Very
He
supportive.
was even made, I think, Person of the Year by the Philippine
Right,
Daily
yeah.
Inquirer.
Yeah. Chief, tell me about the judicial reforms. What about in the area of judicial reform?
Oh yes, he was peeved at literal interpretations of the law that forgot about the public interest, but that forgot about his reform, no? Because he thought that Supreme Court will understand the need for blazing new trails. And whenever the Supreme Court would turn him down, of course he was appointed, and he wanted a more understanding approach. He was just like President Franklin Delano Roosevelt of the United States. If you'll remember, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected at the time when there was a depression in the United
Right.
States, in the aftermath of the stock market crash of 1929.
29.
He was elected, I think, in 1932 or so. And his program was the New Deal. He wanted to break monopolies. He wanted to give labor a better chance. He wanted to industrialize very fast. And he forged on. I think President Ramos wanted something similar, that the agencies of government, particularly the independent one, like the Supreme Court, would help him. In his case, however, he had no opportunity to appoint a Chief Justice because the term of Ramos, of Narvasa was
Justice
longer
Narvasa.
than his.
Yeah. Oh, mabata-bata pa kasi si Justice
Narvasa,
Narvasa.
oo.
Pero hindi ba, sir? Parang may liberal democracy tones din.
Well, yes, in the sense that we want freedom. Yes, the judiciary traditionally is involved with political freedoms, the right to life, liberty, or property, to due process, to peaceful assembly, to be presumed innocent unless proven guilty. But these are born out of the political struggles in the past.
Let me get back to, the reforms in the judiciary during the FVR period.
Yes.
You were talking about the roots or the similarities of
Yes.
challenges of FDR. FVR.
Yes, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and FVR, Fidel V. Ramos, almost the same sound.
Oo nga, no? Oo.
Yes, at that time, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a reformer. He had to reform the American society so they could get out of their depression and become progressive. And they did, really. He was able to do that with this New Deal by breaking up monopolies, by getting the rich to give an equitable part of their wealth to the people. Same way FBR wanted that. He didn't, of course, call it New Deal. He called it Philippines 2000. Yes. But it was similar. Yes. That sometimes you must get shortcuts to make it fast. But he respected processes. He respected due process.
Oh, quite a few cases associated with you. The Manila Prince Hotel versus GSIS, People versus Echagaray, Santiago versus Comelec.
Yes.
That's the Pirma,
That's
no?
the Pirma case. Yes.
And then the Tatad versus DOE,
Yes.
the first oil
The regulation,
law, and then Ople versus Torres.
And Angara, Tañada versus Angara,
And then,
which
Tañada versus...
upheld deregulation, globalization, and privatization policies, not only of the Ramos government, but this as espoused by the World Trade Organization, to which President Ramos adhered. And we upheld that.
Oh.
You know, at that time, that case
Di ba
was-
nagtampo? I mean...
Yes, nagtampo siya sa
You were his appointee, but I know that really once the chief executive gets his appointment through the vetting and the confirmation process, and that's it, really.
Yes,
Diba?
and he respected that. But that Tañada versus Angara was pro him. At that time, 1997, as I said, globalization, privatization were unknown.
Yeah.
And, when I wrote that decision, I circulated the draft in the Supreme Court. The justices did not understand what is deregulation, what is privatization, what is globalization, as espoused by the World Trade Organization, to which the Ramos government was behind. No?
Yeah.
The Ramos government supported that in the world. No? I had to explain. You know, the World Trade Organization PAC, the one that the treaty that created that organization is 36 volumes.
Yeah.
36 volumes, about 1.5 inch per volume. I had to go through that.
Oh my.
I read it. Of course, I didn't read every line. I perused. Much of the those 36 volumes are about each country's commitment
Yeah.
to the World Trade
yeah,
Organization,
to-
listing down the products that would be globalized and so on.
Yun yung WTO GATT, no? The General,
General Agreement
on
on
Tariff and Trade. Yeah.
where tariffs were
Going to be lower.
broken down and taxes on imported materials were brought down so that goods can freely be exchanged worldwide. At that time, America wanted it because they were the producers of goods. Ironically now, it's China that benefits the most because they produce the goods at the lowest price. And they are the factories. China is the factory of the world
Of the
now.
world, right.
And ironically, the United States wants to get out of the World Trade Organization
Yeah.
because it produces goods at a very high price.
Yeah.
So
Ironic nga.
ironic, but that's the way it is now. But at that time, globalization was being pushed by the United States. And President Ramos believed in it. And he wanted Philippine industries to be strong, to get out of their infancy. Because at that time, when Filipino first was the policy, we had high tariffs and high import taxes.
Correct.
Such that Philippine goods, although inferior in quality and very expensive, were the ones promoted. So you had two problems. Expensive goods at low quality.
Yeah.
Simply because the industries were babied.
Protected.
They never grew.
Yeah.
And President Ramos wanted to change that.
Yeah.
He wanted, of course, a phased way of bringing down tariffs
Yeah.
and taxes, bringing in slowly superior goods at a low price, and preparing Philippine industries for that. So many Filipino businessmen didn't like it because their privileges were being set aside.
Yeah.
But President Ramos believed in training the Filipino businessmen to be to produce quality goods at cheap prices.
So, if I remember, competitive and world
Competition,
class.
yes.
That was
World
what
class,
he.
yes. It's talking of world class Philippine products, competitive with the best in the world.
People didn't quite see it his way, but ironically again, 10, 15, 20 years later, they see it.
Oh yeah, he proved right, of
Oh.
course. As I said, he was ahead of his time. But too bad that he was given only 6 years to do that. If he was given another 6 years, I think this country would have prospered much faster.
Faster.
We would be a first world country now, like Singapore. He was contemporary of Lee Kuan Yew
Lee
when,
Kuan Yew.
when Singapore was struggling. Those were the days Singapore was struggling.
Right.
And so was China struggling.
Yeah.
At that time, we were 1992 to 1998 was his term. Although China, Singapore, Philippines were struggling at the same pace.
Yeah.
We were left behind because we never had a consistent policy after Ramos left the presidency.
Chief, did you imagine that you would eventually become Chief Justice
No,
on
I did not.
June 16, June 17, 1992?
no, no. I was appointed.
And one rarely rejects or declines a
Yes.
presidential request.
Especially a new president.
Oh,
Yeah,
so much.
give him a chance. In fact, I was telling me, give me a chance. Let's help this country. Thing like that. Non-partisan. We'll have to work together and so on. He's convincing me.
So
No, I never
Well-
thought I'd be in the Supreme Court.
So let me get
And-
back to let me get back now to 95 when you eventually joined
Yes.
them. I mean, you would have thought na nakalimutan na siguro niya at
Yeah.
lahat, 'di ba? Okay na kami dito sa Wednesday
Yeah.
Wednesday
I
group.
was enjoying that. Being in the background, yes.
Yeah, and you were happily doing your law and business,
Yes. Yes.
enterprises, and
Yes,
that would have been fine, but
yes.
he never forgot you.
He never forgot. When the JBC nominated me, he appointed
Right
me.
then
He
and
even
there.
called me.
Yeah,
He even called me and said, I have your appointment in hand.
So he ended his term. You, I think, would have wanted him to have another term,
Yes.
sana. But
We were outvoted in the
No.
Supreme Court.
you stayed on at the Supreme Court. Eventually became Chief Justice. But how have you kept in contact?
With
Have you
him?
stayed connected? Yeah.
Yes, we stay connected. He sends me all his books. And whenever we see each other, he would jump. He would be happy. We see each other in the golf course. Although now,
nice.
rarely. I think he has,
Not as much, ano?
Not as much.
Oo,
But before, we would see each other often.
And what would those interactions be like?
Oh, they were mostly funny, mostly recollection. No,
Ribbing. Okay.
He has a way of being able to get an audience interested all the time.
Chief, so from perfect stranger to personal friend, is that how it is now?
You could say that because before we met in Rotary, we really didn't know each other.
Yeah.
And even in Rotary, we were casual friends. We were not intimate friends, although we would kid each other, we would tell little stories, and sometimes serious stories about governance. We were not in any way very close. No. That's why that call, when he offered me in his cabinet, shocked me. I didn't expect it.
That seems to be a singular moment in your relationship with him. Ano?
Not only in my relationship with him, but with my career, with my life.
Oh, yeah.
I changed my life. And in deference to him, I dissolved my law office. I got out of everything. I retired from all the organizations I was with. I dissolved my law firm. And I resigned from all my business interests to concentrate on being a justice of the Supreme Court. That's why I don't have a law office now.
Okay. Is there something from his administration and stewardship that we should draw lessons from, especially today?
Well, first, he had a vision of what he wanted to do. He had the drive to be able to pursue it, and the patience. Even if he was in a hurry, he had also patience under fire with him. Second, he had integrity. He pursued this vision along democratic lines, even if he was a military man. Although he wanted the pace much faster, still he respected democratic processes. He respected the rule of law. He accepted that there are certain things he cannot change overnight. So he was patient in that sense. That's why I said if we gave him another term of 6 years, I'm sure the country would have prospered much better, much faster. The important thing is the vision and the passion to accomplish his vision.
Is there, to your mind, an FVR, what could be considered his greatest legacy?
Oh, yes, his legacy in ideas and in action and in actual accomplishments. As I said, he broke down monopolies. PLDT owners at that time probably could not forgive him for breaking up the monopoly. The insurance companies at that time, he broke their hold on power. The shipping lines also. The banks, he tried to push competition, which is very democratic. Competition, no monopolies, no combinations in restraint of trade. Then he opened up the country so that the best and the brightest ideas, businesses, and people could shine and help the country. He wanted the best.
Thank you very much for your time, Chief.